When high-ranking military officers are being killed, the FBI is asked to keep people safe before more end up dead. How do you stop someone you can't see?
Mulder and Scully chase an assailant who can disappear at will. But is he simply a criminal, or is he a patriot?
This is not happening.
Lieutenant General Peter McDougal was shot dead at extreme close range at 0600 this morning. FBI forensics reports the wound was not self-inflicted. The murder weapon hasn't been recovered. The general's driver, Private First Class Gus Burkholder, is currently being held on suspicion of murder.
Well, it says here, NAA test confirmed the private did not do the shooting.
There is suspicion of an accomplice based on the one piece of evidence found at the crime scene, a so-called death card used by soldiers in Vietnam to mark their kills, and by Private Burkholder's possible ties to a radical paramilitary group called the Right Hand, whose stated aim is violent revolution. After speaking with General Block, he believes we have a high probability of opportunity for a group like this. A unique situation that could result in the very public loss of lives. Dozens of high-ranking military officials are in Washington today for rededication of the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial. Unless we can determine a clear motive, we will consider any one of them to be a target.
What if Private Burkholder's telling the truth, that he's innocent?
Until we can find another suspect, the FBI will pursue the Right Hand and their leader, an ex-Marine named Denny Markham, in a preemptive strategy to put a stop to any of the plans they may have made. Now, you all have Markham's file in front of you. For obvious reasons, our strategy includes keeping this from the media. You'll be working in teams of two. If you encounter any resistance, do not engage. Surveil and call for backup. Agent Chandler has your assignments and your field warrants. We have less than 12 hours to prevent any further execution or loss of life. Understood?
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Mike. With me is my good friend, Andrew, and you are listening to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. Andrew, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Mike.
Excellent.
How are you? How do I requite the feeling? Back to you.
However you'd like.
Well, I ask you then, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just finishing my night from a hard day's work and taking care of dogs. So
it's been a hard day's work. Yes.
I feel like I've been a prisoner of war for a while now.
That's right. Segue right into it. I was going to say, I don't think requite is a word. I think it's always unrequited.
It's always unrequited, I believe.
It's like, there's no gruntled. It's always disgruntled.
I'm very gruntled right now.
How are you feeling today? Well, a little gruntled.
A little gruntled.
Actually, a little perturbed. Although unperturbed is kind of a word too. No, but unrequited, the title of this episode, which we're examining this evening, I'm not sure I get it as a.
I've always struggled with it. I'll be honest with you. And maybe I'm just a pudding head, but I just don't.
Well, if we were going to extend a little bit, I mean, unrequited love means you love somebody and they don't love you back. Mm-hmm. So if you take love out of the context, you're giving something and you're not having it returned to you. And there is an element of them, the prisoners of war, not being returned.
That / he's giving his life for his country and his country is betraying him, kind of.
He loves his country, but his country doesn't love him back.
Right. Something like that.
Okay. Still doesn't really make sense, but I guess we can go with it.
We'll go with it.
Another Howard Gordon joint now. We are on a roll with Howard Gordon.
Yeah. Does he hold it together again, ladies and gentlemen? 2 episodes in a row? Can he get it done? Stay tuned.
The albatross around his neck here is that this is a Chris Carter story is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, they say the story was his and the teleplay was him and Chris Carter. I think there's a little bit of covering there because anytime there is Vietnam nonsense that they're going to cover, that is clearly coming directly from Chris Carter.
Interesting.
So I think that, Chris Carter was in Howard Gordon's office a lot for this one.
You know what I just thought of? Why don't we throw this in there?
Yes.
For the love of God, Chris.
Yeah. Can you just let me write it? I'll make it work. We can fix it in post.
I got this cool idea. What if he disappeared?
What if he's got this, he can manipulate blind spots. Yeah. That'll totally work.
You know how sometimes you see blobs in your eyes? That's
little floaters. Yeah.
Little floaters.
They're Vietnam vets in your eyes. That's what they are. They explode from your eyes and make your eyes bleed.
They hide just like the Viet Cong did.
Oh, God. Well, this one was directed by Michael Lange.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you pronounce
Lang,
his name.
I'm pretty
Who
positive.
directed some of my favorite episodes, including Young at Heart.
Excellent.
Possibly
A little more restrained than that one, but
yeah, a little bit. But I mean, there's a lot to do with the script in that one. And I have to admit, I didn't check to see who wrote Young at Heart. I harp on that one.
oh yeah,
And I just need to know who wrote that one. It was written by Chris Carter. Oh, interesting. And Scott Kaufer, whoever that was. But yeah. We can move on. I now know everything I need to know.
such a good episode. Oh man. Well, what do you say we dive into this episode, this military gem?
This military gem. Yeah, I think it's time to requite the feelings.
Let's requite. Okay, Andrew. Picture yourself at a rally. Stadium lights shine through an American flag as it flits about in the wind. We're at the Capitol Mall near the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington. Thousands of veterans and their families have gathered to hear the man on stage speak his words of patriotism and valor.
You can smell the patriotism a mile away.
Yeah. That many of you here tonight came home not to a hero's welcome, but to the hostility of the American people is a shameful fact of history. The camera descends behind the speaker in front of the excited attendees. General Block, his green cap fitted to his head. One that I will never understand or forgive. The service is to honor the Vietnam vets who served their country and remember those who fell. As the crowd applauds, we see Skinner behind Block, looking around and talking into his earpiece. Agents are all around the crowd checking in. Mulder and Scully are also out there, looking for a suspect. Scully spots him, a man in his 40s with short hair and a green military jacket. He walks by a little ways away, and she pursues. The other agent sees the back of his head and pursues as best he can, but loses him in the crowd. The man turns and locks eyes with Scully, but she tries to act innocent and turns her head. She then loses him. Mulder, meanwhile, is up front, still scanning the crowd. No one has him. Scully and the third agent, who is aptly named 3, meet in a small clearing, both having lost him, but Mulder still looks on. A short distance away, he spots him, head and shoulders in a sea of excited onlookers waving flags. Suddenly, he's gone. Mulder scans again. Skinner now notices the man and tells Mulder to intercept. He's right in front of you. Mulder draws his gun, and as the man pushes past the last few people, his image distorts and vanishes in a wisp of wind. Mulder is left pointing his gun at civilians, still trying to aim at the man now gone, as they duck for cover. Credits. Oh boy.
Yes.
So this one, a little exciting, Andrew, huh?
Oh, yeah. Starting in media res, as they say, where the action is pumping. We have no backstory. We have no knowledge of how we got here. So yeah, there's some nice action going on.
I sense
we have
2 weeks ago coming on.
I feel that too. Some kind of how did we get here? What events brought us to this moment? I have a few thoughts. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I got a laundry list of complaints up to this point, but in fact I don't. I only have a couple of things I'm curious about. The first is, who cares, Scully, if he saw you?
Right.
She does this thing of like, he spotted me, Mulder. It's like, use it.
Right.
Apparently he's the bad guy. Get in there. But she does this little shy turn away.
No, I'm sorry. No.
I'm about your business. Oh, damn, I lost him. I'm like, what?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, there is the trope thing of not spooking your suspect. Obviously, he knows he's being pursued, but maybe she's like, you know what? I'm going to hang back for a second because I don't want him to take innocent people hostage. Maybe that, Andrew, is what she was thinking. God damn it.
I think if you pasted this, well, in fact, they do paste this scene right back on to the end of the episode, saving them 10 minutes of actual screen time. It doesn't really hang well
Oh.
Because they know the capabilities of this guy. Like, they know what the stakes are. So their being coy at this stage makes zero sense. It's like, no, you see him. It's warning shots in the air, everybody down. We got a guy who's killed 2 high-ranking generals, and I mean, frankly, there are a lot of things they should have done for this sting operation ultimately. Like, they've got their bait up there at the podium, and they don't do it, and we'll get into that later. But all that to say that there's a lot that does not hang well at this point. Howard is going to let us down. He's done well in that last one, but now he's going to let us down a little bit.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Okay.
Your Andrew Alexander, your SOP, standard of procedure, for ladies and gentlemen who may not know what that means, for this particular case, is when Scully spots him to fire blindly into the air in a sea of
crowd,
people.
Frankly. Or directly into the crowd, perhaps. That might be more effective.
You are aware, Andrew, that bullets do come down, right?
Not on TV, they don't.
Okay. All right.
They land in the ocean. It's where they go.
I'm a little shocked because I think if Howard Gordon had taken that tack, you would have something to say about it.
I would probably have something to say. That's true. Well, I mean, you've got Mulder pointing his gun at people ultimately.
Well, yeah, okay. But in that situation, you kind of have to, right?
Well, and the people are dodging out of the way. So
I mean, I know you would have liked to see him unload on the crowd, but that's not how it's done.
I
hear your complaint. I hear it. It is noted.
Yes. And frankly, my complaint is that they have their own solution prepared for them, and they ignore it completely. I will identify that moment later, but and the other thing is Mulder saying, "I feel he's here." It's, oh, come on.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
Sure you do.
Sure you do. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that insight, Agent Mulder. Yeah.
I feel him. He licks his finger and holds it up.
That's right. Yeah.
We go now to Fort Evanston, Maryland, 12 hours earlier.
It's only 12 hours, man.
Only
Tight
12 hours.
timeline.
This episode is going to move. A helicopter lands, and Lieutenant General Peter McDougal gets out, puts on his hat. Immediately, he hops into a limousine. The limousine drives on, off the base. Inside, he grabs some files from a briefcase, and the driver puts up the window and locks the doors. Normal. As he flips through the documents, he notices a playing card at his feet. He picks it up. It appears normal, but on the flip side is a crudely painted, hand-drawn skull with 2 crossed bloody scimitars. The man's confused. When he looks up, a man sits across from him. He's in his 40s, in military fatigues, the man we saw from the pre-credits scene. When the lieutenant general asks who he is and how the hell he got in here, the man simply aims his pistol at him and fires. Caught off guard, the driver slams on the brakes and runs to check on his important passenger. He opens the door to a ghastly sight. McDougal has been shot once in the forehead and lies slumped in the back seat. The ominous card rests on his chest as an omen.
It's a pretty cool scene, actually.
Yeah.
I will spoil it and say I don't fundamentally like this villain's superpower.
Okay.
I mean, I like it and I dislike it. It has a very pusher feel to it.
Mhm.
It seems to have the same mechanism at play where you can affect people's brains, and it's not magic. So there's an explanation for it. So I dig bits and pieces of it, but the way they choose to use it, I feel. I guess I'm unresolved whether it works for me, and my gut instinct is it doesn't, and maybe our talking about it through the episode will clarify that for me a bit. I do like the setup of the scene, though, that he's suddenly there. It's a great reveal, and I love that it doesn't give a big exposition about why the guy's got to die. It's just like, what? How are you here? And the gun.
You have been chosen.
Yeah, exactly. This is for all my dudes back in the POW
Oh my God!
camp.
Thank God they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Ever in this episode.
And I just got to say that Burkholder, there's a guy who's fucked.
Somebody's career over before it began. Yeah. Poor driver,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Gus.
Oh, Gus.
Oh, Gus.
Damn, Gus. It's all, your career's messed up now, Gus.
Poor Lieutenant General. All right. Skinner's voice preempts the next scene. He was shot at extreme close range at 0600 this morning. Murder weapon unrecovered. He addresses the room of agents. NAA tests confirmed his driver, Private Burkholder, did not do the shooting, although he does have ties to a radical paramilitary group called the Right Hand. Military officials will be in Washington for a rededication of the Vietnam War Memorial. Any one of them are considered targets. Mulder asks if Burkholder is telling the truth, but until they find another suspect, he and the Right Hand's leader, an ex-Marine named Denny Markham, will be considered number one suspects. The action must be preemptive to thwart any possible plans. All the agents look at their individual files on Denny Markham. We see a photo of Detective Manners, obviously finally losing it.
Detective Manners.
He's lost it. He has become an extremist after his run-in with dead alien bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complete career change. He went into the Marines and then, discharged not 6 months later.
Well,
but then
he
went back
did
to
have
Vietnam.
a run-in with alien conspiracies and the government. So now he is obviously disillusioned by the government and is spouting conspiracy theories. But
it must be the case.
Yeah. At the end of the meeting, Skinner demands they keep it from the media. They have 12 hours, Andrew.
The deadline is in place.
He dismisses the room and meets with the two agents. He admits he's flying by the seat of his pants. There's no real strategy due to the time frame and set of possible victims. Mulder asks about procedure for finding an invisible assassin, to Skinner's dismay. Scully had Burkholder get a polygraph and he passed, though she thinks it may be a false positive. The tester admitted the results are interpretive. See, I don't think that's fair. I know polygraph is inadmissible in court, but
Yep.
if someone passes, they pass. I mean, you can't say, well, it's interpretive. They're all interpretive.
It's like yeah, exactly. I'm sure there is no flying colors pass with polygraphs,
Right.
but I think they just needed to underline the fact that don't look at Burkholder as the bad guy here. That's all they needed to do, was just say he's not important, audience. Don't waste brain cycles thinking about good old Gus. We're going to move on. My question is, does the military not have police to protect their officers, their high-ranking generals? Why?
Well, they have.
Why the
Well, and they
the
explain
FBI
that
here?
later, Andrew. Do we really have to do this now?
No, I can totally wait. It just occurred to me that, like, the FBI, sure, they can get involved with a murder, but I know the military has its own.
They have
has
other
its own
soldiers
infrastructure. Correct. Yeah,
Indeed.
like there are. I have seen some TV shows which have their own court system and bodyguards and all that. No,
it's all fake.
okay.
This one's correct.
It's all fake.
This is how
That's
you do
fair.
it.
I also think that the link between Burkholder and the Right Hand, that's so tenuous. Like, I get that they need to connect those dots. I wish there was another way, because, like, that just brings me closer to Burkholder as the suspect. I know they used the polygraph to push us away, but it's like, but yet the connection.
He's still a douchebag.
Yeah, then they reel it right back again. It's like, well, make up your mind, I would say, give me something else, This is all about getting us to Teager, right? This is all about...
Right. Well, it's about getting us to Denny, right?
Yeah, and through Denny, we get to Teager.
Right.
The whole point of that scene is to identify Teager as the antagonist.
Mm-hmm. Scully asks about the warrant for Markham, and they offer to serve it for Skinner. He gives them one last plea to do things right. He's already seen more dead soldiers than he ever wanted to see and can't risk any more. So we go now to Demeter, Virginia. Demeter?
Yeah, I think they're both actually correct. It really depends on your point of view. It's like some people get really offended, though, if you pronounce it the wrong way.
Yeah,
So
those people are assholes.
They are. we should run a poll. We should run a poll to see how
Demeter or Demeter? Shut up. Anyway, Mulder and Scully's sedan drives down a dirt road covered by dense trees on either side, kicking up a trail of dust. They approach his command center and pass a tree with a piece of plywood on it and a white handprint. Apparently, Andrew, Saruman lives here.
He does.
He does. A bunch of orcs are patrolling the perimeter.
Yep. Luckily, the FBI special forces took them all out.
Oh, yeah. When they arrive on the property, they are greeted by a chain link fence with the same palm sign. Mulder hits the call button and Markham responds. After introductions, he tells them the gate's unlocked. Confused, the agents slowly open it and enter. But after a few steps, 3 Rottweilers jump out of his truck a little ways away, barking, snarling, and dashing for them. The agents rush back and shut the gate before an attack. They press against the fence violently, trying to get to the trespassers, and a sharp whistle sounds out in the distance. It's Markham calling them off as he steps out of his trailer. The dogs retreat.
Can I just jump in before we have our intense scene between Denny Markham and the agents?
Yeah.
I surprisingly have a lot to say about this gate.
Okay. Is it not chain link enough for you?
This is the quality that you listeners come to expect from our show, where we are looking at the hard-hitting truth of the gate technology in the X-Files.
Okay.
Are you watching the episode, reviewing the freeze frame evidence right now, Mike?
I am.
Okay. Our first offense is the call box.
Okay.
How does this thing work? There's one button on it. And when Mulder pushes it, it buzzes. And then he pushes on it again, and it doesn't buzz, but he talks to Denny. So it suggests to me there should be 2 buttons, first of all. There should be like a buzz button that makes it work, and then another for, it's I talk and I need to push this button to talk. But anyway, Mulder definitely pushes the button and talks, right? And it does not buzz. And then later on, there's no touching of buttons required. Scully is just talking and Denny is hearing him just fine.
Whatever, dude.
I love the very loose. It's like choose a conceit for how this damn box works and stick with it. But they're just using all of it. So
oh boy,
that just stood out to me as I'm watching it. Like what?
He is using the same button to turn it on and talk.
Exactly. But that's not the worst part.
No.
You need to keep watching when he opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how doors work, and that when you pull the handle, it pulls back a bolt, which allows the door to move.
Right.
Do you see that there is not, in fact, any bolt there?
Oh, that's good stuff.
They have just bolted on 2 door handles.
It is rather loose too. You can see the whole thing jiggle and
they just push it open. So when Denny says the door's not locked, he's telling the truth.
He's telling the truth. I mean, it's just not locked.
The call box doesn't do anything. I mean, this is clearly just a gate that they found that's probably normally just closed with a chain and a padlock, but they've dressed it up to look way
They
more
didn't have the
actually.
time, Andrew. They did not have the time to get an actual gate door.
I missed opportunity to have asked Larry about that prop,
What he knows about it. I've wanted to talk about this for 30 years. Thank you for bringing it up.
That door was the shoddiest piece.
I was giving the props guys so much trouble.
Yeah. So anyway, I needed to get that out there. Thank you for indulging me.
No, I appreciate that. That was good stuff. I'm always on the lookout for bad set designer prop work in movies and television.
That's a good one right there.
It is good. But we can explain it away. Maybe it is electric and magnetically sealed, Andrew.
Then why do you have the door handles that turn? Because he clearly turns the door handle.
It's a handle, and people like familiarity, and they want to know that they're doing and using a door. So, yeah, Andrew.
Because that's what I see in Denny Markham is somebody who needs to,
he's
really anticipate people's needs.
Absolutely.
He's a people pleaser.
He's a gentleman.
He is, right. Unless you're FBI, in which case he's a prick.
Well, he is a gruff man, balding with jeans, plaid shirt, and a warm vest because, well, it gets cold here in fake Virginia. The scene lingers on his approach to the agents waiting on the other side of the security gate with an real door. This man has an imposing presence, and they make sure you know that with the extended intro.
Now, you wanted to see me about?
The murder of General Peter McDougal.
Am I under suspicion?
No, but your group is, and Private First Class Gus Burkholder.
Is that a name I should know?
He's on the mailing list for the right hand.
2,000 names on that list. I can't keep track every one of them.
Well, we'd like to go over that list with you, sir.
No way in hell you'll be getting that from me.
We already have a copy if you'll just come with us.
Not going anywhere.
Sir, we have a warrant for your arrest if you don't cooperate. Under the new anti-terrorism law, we can and will hold you until we get the information we want.
I kind of love his tone here. It's not outright rude. I think he does play this very, very well. He's a no bullshit guy, Denny Markham. And, he's talking about, like, there are 2,000 names on that list. I can't know all of them. He doesn't really seem interested in what the agents have to say. Yeah. Yep. And he's just, I think Larry Mustard does a good job at being extremely off-putting and yet just kind of neutral to this whole situation, even though his disdain for government officials is real. I think this is a good scene between the agents and him.
What it does, unfortunately, it does that thing where they tell a story that I think is possibly more interesting than the story we're currently watching. And that story is the rescue of Tiger from the POW camp. And blows right past it. Like, it's like, yeah, this is a picture from when we busted him from the POW camp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is that story all about? Because clearly there is a movement of people involved to, like, it wasn't just Denny Markham on his own. And they went to Vietnam to get him out. Like, why did they only get Tiger out? Where are the other guys? So, and that is something that they don't really clarify. And maybe I'll get to it later, but, Tiger's the only escapee, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine it being a situation of, Tiger alludes in the later scene in this episode that there are more out there, more POWs that are alive. And I can believe that this is like a very painstaking process of not only finding POWs, but liberating them. So one at a time, I kind of find that believable just in the sense that there's so much to weed through, literally in terms of a jungle, in Vietnam. But I'm okay with it being one liberation at a time, or at least in this case, one liberation. It strikes me as a little realistic. I don't know how.
It does. I don't like that this organization is now cast as a terrorist organization because they have stated aims of bringing down the government. It's like, we rescue POWs, but we'd really also like to overthrow the government. I mean, I could see a case for a way more interesting episode where their aims are pure. They actually do want to. Their chief objective is to bring everybody home. But, the heart of this conspiracy in this episode is that it's a stated fact. There are no more POWs there. This conspiracy wants to just move on and forget about it. But yet you've got this organization that's still out there, trying to get these soldiers home. And so, that conspiracy could have organized it that the right hand or the black hand or white hand, red hand, whatever they are, they are put on the terrorist list to sort of try and
because they're working against what the government has stated as fact.
The policy of this organization. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they don't do that. So
instead they turn them into right-wing lunatics. Who
Which
not
is
only
easier.
It's easier. I mean, it's easier to hate them, but at the same time, I don't hate Denny. I think
that's the thing.
He's very likable in this because he's so good. I think that's just testament to Larry, and I'm not trying to be a butt kiss or anything, but I think he just plays a character that's so level, even keeled for such an evil man. He's very level and honest with the agents, despite having a distaste for authority.
And having tried to kill them with dogs, yeah.
Well, he was playing a joke.
He was playing a little joke.
He's playing a little joke. They didn't like it, but he was playing a joke.
All right. What exposition do we get out of this scene? Because there's a bit.
There is a lot. On top of exposition, he is the leader of the right hand, and he has a list of supporters and members of his little team there, his little club. And then Andrew, his dogs stir, and they check out the perimeter of his compound. We see soldiers in camouflage gear lining up at the fence under the cover of trees, and Markham spots them when the dogs mark. The agents aren't fazed, though. They give Markham the option of doing this the easy way or the hard way.
He doesn't have his rocket launcher handy, so he says, well, all righty.
He gives up some info. The right hand is about empowering the individual against a corrupt and corrupting government. Armed conflict and violent resistance will be necessary with loss of lives. They're prepared for that, but this is not the time, he says. And you kind of believe him. This is not their chosen revolution. So
he's not going to die on this rock.
No, he's not. She asks him to take a polygraph, but he says, no, my word's good enough. Mulder shows him the death card from the general's body, and this catches Markham's attention. More men are going to die, he says. Oh, boy.
We don't get any kind of satisfying understanding as how Denny is related to that Green Beret B-11 team. I just think that our knowledge based on this scene is that he rescues Teager from the POW camp. Mm-hmm. Shows the picture and says, this is when I, got him off the helicopter. But we don't know about the relationship beforehand. He clearly knows about the card.
Yeah.
He was a Marine. He wasn't a Green Beret. So
this is probably the loosest part for me, aside from Magic disappearing act.
Apart from Magic.
Because he doesn't know how Teager can do what he does. He doesn't even know that Teager does what he does.
No, exactly. He just knows more people are going to die.
He just knows that more people are going to die somehow.
You see that? I know what that card means. It means people are going to die. Yeah.
I mean, I buy that he might know that soldiers used it. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that just because it was found on a military official's body in America does not mean more people are going to die without consequence or like it's just going to happen, So I don't know. Seems a little like, okay, do you know what's happening or do you not know? And I truly believe he does not know. So
I guess I'm struggling with the link to Teager because it's Denny who's going to reveal that it's Teager is the guy you're after.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure why he immediately comes to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Maybe I should watch the episode more closely.
It's just because he disappeared from the cargo hold, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
So later on, the government has taken control of his property. His dogs are in kennels. They move freely about the compound. We see soldiers file out of his trailer, each with a different ballistic weapon, ranging from rocket launcher to rifle. This disturbs Scully, who quips he has more ammunition and guns than most third world governments. Mulder hands her a photograph that Markham directed him to. It's of him and a man with long hair and a beard, the killer from the limousine. Somehow, he knows this man killed General McDougal.
Somehow.
Can I just comment that it looks like these two men are taking two completely different pictures?
Yeah. It's not a great composite.
Teager does no, well, it's not a composite. They're together. But Markham is like, hey, thumbs up, fucking smile for days. And Teager's like, what's a camera? I've never heard of a camera.
Well, I mean, the circumstance, he's just been freed from a PW camp.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah,
so the man with the hair is Nathaniel Teager. He has 26 solo enemy kills left for dead by the same government that created him. He belonged to Detachment B-11, Green Beret, the Bloody Sabres.
The Bloody Sabres.
Their chopper was shot down, and the photo was taken in 1995 after they liberated him. Scully slips in some facts that, well, in 73, the Defense Department determined there were no more POWs. Markham hits her again. Maybe that's why they tried to kidnap him when we brought him home.
I can smell Chris Carter a mile away.
Yeah, but when they boarded their plane, when it landed, Teager was not in the cargo hold. Never could figure out how he done it. They load Markham into their sedan.
It's still tenuous. I don't know. And it's because it's this Howard Gordon thing of if you move fast enough, nobody notices. But, on the rewatch, you're like, it's not enough. I don't buy that. It's like, yeah, there's a picture on my filing cabinet. You should bring it over. Yeah, that's your guy. And it is the guy, It's like, what? You just pull that guy out of a hat? Sure, why not?
Yeah, of course it's the guy. A little too convenient.
A little convenient.
Scully remarks to her partner about the fantastical and apocryphal nature of the story that's being told. A forgotten POW comes back to avenge injustices of a war. Mulder points out Markham's testimony, Burkholder's story, and his truthful polygraph. If that's all they got to go on, that's pretty good stuff, because Markham's telling the truth, and
that's all you need.
That's all you need.
When you're a Howard Gordon writing a script, that's all you need.
It's actually Scully that drops the conspiracy word here, Andrew, which is surprising. They're putting Scully in the role of proffering the notion that there are multiple players here organizing a story to get a mission accomplished. She is certain, by the way, that Denny Markham, will not pass a polygraph. We go to the War Memorial.
Won't.
A close-up shot of Nathaniel Teager's name amongst hundreds of others. A grieving widow lays down flowers in a memory of her fallen husband. Teager appears behind her, frightening her. He identifies her as Miss Davenport. We've seen her before, Andrew.
Oh, have we? Where have we seen her?
We have. I believe it was Revelations as the healthcare worker or social worker. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Could be.
Teager's here on behalf of Lance Corporal Gary Davenport of Special Forces. He is restoring the honor and memory of the B-11, and he hands her Gary's dog tags, which sends her into immediate tears. She can't believe it. When she looks up asking where he got them, he's gone, vanished into thin air. She calls for him, but no answer.
What a jerk. What a jerk.
Well, he's got to remain mysterious. He can't just hang out and get a cup of coffee.
For sure. Absolutely. But I mean, I just look at it like, do you even know what you're going to do to this woman?
Right.
And no answers, just here are the dog tags. I got to go. So what? And first of all, if he's still alive, why did you take both dog tags?
Maybe he was given to him. Maybe
from the dead corpse, I suppose.
Maybe Davenport gave him to him. Give these to my wife. Let her know I'm here.
Little known fact. Do you know the purpose of the dog tag?
Yes.
It's to identify a dead body. So if you remove them from the body, they're not very useful.
Andrew.
Stop it? Okay, we'll move on.
Andrew. How dare you? How dare you point out an obvious flaw in the show?
Just one.
We're going to have problems. We're going to have problems.
Just one. Okay. Just one episode that I will poke holes at. Just one.
Okay. All right.
I just have to say, I do like that they have used the names on the wall as character names. It's not like they made an entire monument and inserted Nathaniel Teager and Gary Davenport's names. They, I'm sure, went down to Washington and just did some scene work there where they got some B-roll of those names, and I think that is a nice touch.
I'm not sure you can make that claim.
You think maybe they made their own wall? Okay, that's possible.
All right. Well, later on, Mulder and Scully arrive on the scene. The woman made a positive ID on the photo. It's Teager. They meet Skinner, who has people checking all vendors and workers in the area. He cannot authorize a strategy that's going to target a soldier who's officially dead. Skinner verified with Army forensics that his remains were recovered and identified to also prove he's dead, and this catches Mulder off guard. Scully thinks maybe Markham is using this vulnerable woman to pass off his lies, finding someone who looks enough like Teager to further his plan. The agents now have a tender scene with Mrs. Davenport. She fights back tears as she asks if it can possibly be true. As she describes what she saw, the man seemingly vanishing, she begins to spiral a bit about if Gary is actually alive. She's remarried. She's moved on. It's a sad scene, Andrew.
It is a sad scene.
Reminds me of Helen Hunt in Castaway. She's moved on, but her husband is still alive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In her distressed state, she begins to cry again, and suddenly a drop of blood falls from her eye. Scully wipes it up. The two agents argue about her emotional state, and Mulder seems convinced that the hemorrhage in her eye is caused by her emotional state, which was brought on by seeing Teager. That's the explanation
Clearly
that Mulder's going with.
Mm-hmm.
A little rough
sure.
there.
Well, they don't have anything else yet. I mean,
They don't, but I mean, I don't get... I know what they're saying, but I just don't see like Mulder's logic. Well, she was disturbed by seeing Teager, and now she's crying blood. So that means something? I don't, whatever. It's a loose connection if ever there was one.
You're absolutely right. And I have been listening, but at the same time, I have also looked at the Vietnam War Memorial. There's a website, a very good website actually, which allows you to search for the names upon the wall. And I am incorrect. Nathaniel Teager and Gary Davenport are not names on that wall.
Told you.
Clearly. They made their own wall.
Yep.
It's probably less expensive for them to create
It's fucking
what
styrofoam.
looks to be the War Memorial in Vancouver than to actually take a field trip down to Washington and just shoot the scenes there.
I guarantee you it's cheaper.
It probably is.
We go now to the Army Central ID Lab. Mulder meets with Ben Kaiser. He's got Teager's remains recovered from the crash site. In a hard cut, we see several teeth isolated in separate chambers inside a plastic box. This takes Mulder aback. All we've based his death on are these teeth. And what's even more interesting is that under the microscope, there are parallel scoring lines as if the teeth were pulled out. Unfortunately, though, Andrew, they can't tell if it's pre or post-mortem.
Oh, it's post-mortem. Oh, sorry, it's pre-mortem.
No, the man shows Mulder that it was even listed as inconclusive on his file. Death inconclusive. So Mulder is now convinced someone chose to ignore facts, although they can't really determine who signed off on his death because it's been redacted.
Wait. The plot is losing me a bit here. When did they get these teeth? How and when?
Now. Because the plot asked them to?
Yeah, but how? Like, did they
typically when a helicopter
from Vietnam?
Yeah, when a helicopter explodes.
Yeah. But no, the whole thing is they're covering up his existence, and they needed something that could identify him, so they got his teeth. Great. Where did the teeth come from, though? Did they get them from Vietnam? Did they make a deal?
They Vietnamed him.
This is a proof of life. We're going to send you some teeth. We're going to send you his teeth.
Here's how it happened.
Okay.
You ready for this? Okay.
I'm ready.
So
I will stop at one point. I'll just stop caring.
No, Teager's chopper is coming in to evacuate the B-11. And it gets shot down, right?
It does.
Realizing they are overwhelmed by the enemy, Teager and his men continue to fight on, but as more and more men fall, he's like, well, I'm going to be taken hostage somehow. I mean, he's assuming that, and he turns out to be right. He preemptively pulls his molars out and tosses them at the wreckage so that they will know that he is dead. And they will recover them.
His teeth.
He's totally dead. Super dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
He, instead of leaving a clue as to where he was or where he was going to be taken, he pulled out his teeth. So
Mike, your entirely reasonable suggestion has calmed me and
You're rethinking your
reassured
hatred,
me.
right?
I am thinking that this episode is a lot better than I gave it credit for. Please continue.
I'm here to solve problems.
Excellent.
Well, anyway, his records were partially destroyed, but they could cross-reference the records with others filed at the same time and make a guess as to who signed off on his death. We hard cut to another general being driven by a limousine. Mulder calls to warn General Stefan of an impending attack. Because he put his name on a death certificate for Nathaniel Teeger, his life is in danger. Stefan is on his way to the Pentagon at the moment, and Mulder tries to make sure he's secure over the phone, asking if he trusts his driver and to always have backup. He's also sending FBI agents to help. At the Pentagon, a tour guide talks to students as Stefan passes and gains entry. As he leaves the frame...
Your Honor, I have an
sir.
objection. I have an objection.
It's been exactly 53 seconds.
30 seconds since my last objection. I know I'm wasting the court's time, but when he calls the limo, like obviously Mulder's, spent some of his capital to get the exact location of General Stefan, and they've tracked him down. Well, he's in his limo. Let me connect you. So they ring the car phone, which is a nice touch. But the driver listens for like 30 seconds and then says, "It's for you, sir." And I have to ask myself, who else would it be for? Is it for the driver?
He's playing a role. He's just like, you know what? This could be for me. In my dreams, I hope it's someone calling for me. I'm just the lowly cab driver.
Do you know where I am? I'm driving a limo right now, honey. You can't be calling me. I know, but we'll wait till I get home. That was my first thing. And the other is, how on earth does Teeger know who General Stefan is?
That's the other thing about this. That's the other thing about this episode.
For the targeting of these high-ranking generals by Green Beret Joe Schmo, who's clearly not trained as a bureaucrat. He's trained as a hard-ass killer. The podcast is not a great place for facial expression. Shall I paint you a picture, listener, of what Mike's face is doing right now?
Please regale us. What is my
consternation mixed with frustration? How will we ever get through this episode? He's thinking.
I'm thinking I got to get to bed at a reasonable time tonight.
This episode's going to be 3 fucking hours long with Andrew pulling this shit. Okay.
Fuck. But you raise a good point, sir.
How on earth does he know?
Well,
get me all the records for the guys who signed my death certificate. Those fuckers are going to die.
Even though they've redacted it, they kept another file telling us who signed off on it.
I'm going to kill the guy who pulled my teeth from my fake teeth or whatever.
I won it in a poker game. Give me the list of the guys who signed off and hit it.
Yeah, so many people are going to pay for me being allowed.
You know what's missing is Teeger clutching the phone number of CSMs, and that's who gave him all the information he needed to know.
Yes, clearly it's how that's supposed to play out.
Fuck. All right.
Boy.
Well,
I'm going to give you another 30 seconds before I interject. So
that's all right. So as Stefan gains entry to the Pentagon, he leaves the frame of the camera, and we see Teeger walk through the metal detector as well, setting it off, which gets the attention of the security guard, but he sees nothing and goes about his business. Stefan is let into his office after the FBI agents case the place. And might I say, they do a piss poor job of it, because they walk like a step or two into the office and they just determine everything's okay. Had they gone to the desk, maybe they would have seen the death card on it, but nope.
It's just from the poker game.
They just peer inside. Everything's good.
Yep. Everything's fine.
Yeah, they clear it from the doorway and leave Stefan to do his job. He sees the card on his desk and immediately picks it up, confused. Scully calls Mulder with an update on Miss Davenport. The ophthalmologist discovered a transient scotoma, a floating blind spot in her eye. Nothing out of the ordinary can be caused by a myriad of things. Mulder's at the Pentagon now, heading to check on Stefan. Gets stopped at the metal detector as he talks with Scully. He posits the theory that the scotoma maybe is why she thinks the man vanished. And, well, Scully already posed this theory to the doctor, and he just laughed at her. Mulder gets another call. It's Stefan. He's found the card. It's very upsetting. The camera's close on his face as he speaks to Mulder. Slowly, it creeps around, and out of focus, behind him, we see the image of Teager in his office. As he demands to know who put the card in his office, we see Teager raise his gun. Over the line, we hear a gunshot, and Mulder darts off even faster to Stefan's location.
He first asks General Stefan 2 to 3 times whether he's okay.
Are you General Stefan?
General Stefan? What was that noise?
Not quite as bad as Reggie, but...
Not quite. But
Reggie?
pretty bad.
Reggie?
Reggie? Are you okay, Reggie? Are you choking?
Salamander hand.
Yeah. Salamander hand.
When Mulder arrives, the doofus agents burst into his office and again hang at the door with their guns drawn. No one home, and when Mulder gets there, he calls for an ambulance and checks on Stefan. Dead. The death card rests on his barrel of a chest. And Mulder picks it up. I believe that's evidence.
That has not stopped him before.
I don't think he should be putting his hands on this, but, whatever.
Fun fact, Mulder has shaved off his fingerprints.
Oh, so he too has seen the movie.
That's right. That's how he can do this. He doesn't need no gloves.
Well, he's definitely wiping away any other fingerprints that might be here.
Yeah. Oh, they don't need to know who planted the card.
They know.
They know. They know. This will not be what clinches this case,
No.
the whole card thing.
As Mulder examines the card, Teager sits about a foot or two away from Mulder. Mulder looks to his side, sensing a presence, but Teager's gone now. He squeezes his eyes shut for a second and composes himself as he continues mishandling evidence.
Licking the card.
Yeah.
Question, Your Honor.
Yes.
Does Teager maybe exude a smell of any kind?
Heroism and patriotism. He smells like red, white, and blue.
He sure does. Do you think Mulder might smell that in that room?
Are you trying to say he doesn't take showers?
I'm trying to say there is more than just, what meets the eye.
Okay.
To present a presence in a room. Like, you make noise.
Before he goes on his killing spree, we get a quick shot of Teager in front of his bathroom mirror, slapping on the cologne.
Yeah. or the complete lack of it. Everything is super unscented, and he wears like the most non-scent antiperspirant.
I choose to believe he thought ahead. He's like, no, I'm not gonna wear cologne because that'll give me away.
That'll give me away. Clearly.
Well,
I mean, he's so close to Mulder. He's right there, and I know that's the point. It's like the bad guy's right behind you, but they are leaning so heavy into this idea that you must see a person to know that they're there. And I'm like, there's more to it than that. And the plot, that this guy is invisible and he gets in there right next to his victim, and yet he's not caught up to his own plot yet. So
yeah.
It's losing me a bit, man.
All right. Well, some time has passed. It's a crime scene. Skinner and Scully have arrived with law enforcement. The general's secretary was in no more than 15 minutes before the general was shot, and he saw no one. He was shot at close range in the forehead, but Scully can't corroborate his narrative. It's too soon to be able to tell if he had a scotoma. Mulder is stuck on how a 4-star general could be killed in what is symbolically the best defended building in the nation. Skinner comes in. He's not happy. The burden of this entire situation is falling square on his shoulders. He wants them to see something immediately and brings them to surveillance tape. They witness the scene from earlier. Teager walks right through the metal detector at the entrance and the guard responding to the sound, but not to Teager himself.
It's Teager. Whoever it is, I want to know how the hell this happened.
Neither of us has a clear explanation, sir.
You were on your way here, Agent Mulder. You knew the general was in danger.
I did everything I could. I put 2 agents with
This
him.
is insanity. This man is killing at will.
That's correct, sir.
Wait, he's unstoppable? Is that what you're telling me?
I think the Tiger has an ability. The ability to effectively erase himself from the visual field.
If he's invisible, then why is he on this video clear as day?
I think that he can hide himself from human sight by manipulating something that Scully has referred to as naturally occurring, a blind spot.
That is conjecture, sir.
You mean even if I'm looking at him?
He might not be able to see him. Isn't it true that U.S. soldiers have reported the unexplained appearance and disappearance of VC guerrillas? I've read the dispatches myself. I mean, maybe Tiger learned something from his captors in 25 years of isolation.
And it's here, Andrew, that I want to make a sad realization that this is the second of 2, count them 2, people who will inevitably get fired for letting serial killers into the government building. The first being the gentleman from Pusher.
Pusher, yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, is it the same guy? That would
it's
be the
not
funny
the
part.
same guy, but they are both black, which is even more of a shame. Because
What is that saying, really?
just
Right?
can't catch a break.
It's also the second episode in a row, I might add, where the use of video is going to sink the bad guy, or
Yeah.
it's going to identify the actual bad guy
Yeah.
by the same writer. It's like he's got
A playbook.
he's got a playbook.
Oh.
I mean, it's a nice scene because it does harken back to Pusher, where he can just fool the system by use of his power. So I'm all right with that part, but that right there, when they see that he can fool people but he can't fool the camera,
Yeah.
that is the vulnerability they need to use to exploit and thus catch him in the end. But they
Right.
don't. They just forget that this exists. And I can't fathom that they're like, oh, look at this smart thing, but no, we're dumb. We don't remember that. So
Yeah.
that
Well, this is
bothers
before the overhead Super Bowl camera, the football camera. They didn't have that until like early 2000s, so they didn't really think of that for the crowd.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Good point.
Well,
Mm.
we go now to the Army Detention Center. General Block walks down a hallway and enters an interrogation room. Markham waits inside. He did it again, didn't he? Markham acknowledges Block's presence without actually looking at him. As Block inquires as to who the man is, Markham just shrugs him off. It's a great scene. We can feel Denny's no bullshit attitude. He's not impressed with Block's authority. The two spar with words. Block threatens him by reminding him the charges he currently faces, but by the end of the scene, he offers him a mysterious deal. Markham appears unmoved by the proposal, telling Block that what Tiger wants, you cannot give him. Block throws him up against the wall behind him, but Markham maintains composure. Whatever you do to me won't matter. We cut now to the parade. The official starts the march, calling for the men to get in line. The parade starts with happy onlookers lining the streets and waving flags. We've all seen it, and it's just as annoying on TV as it is in person. As the camera passes through the tunnel lined with the convoy of military vehicles, we see Tiger on the grass beside them, spectating. Mulder is at the Lincoln Memorial, and Marita arrives.
You need information on American prisoners of war.
A man named Tiger.
I have no information on him.
Why did you come here?
Tell me what you know.
A POW named Tiger may be back home carrying out death sentences against the men that left him in Vietnam.
Who are those men?
Generals, Stephan and McDougal.
They have a connection.
What is that?
A recent news story extremely embarrassing to the U.S. military about the disposing of South Vietnamese soldiers.
Men employed by our government as spies and commandos and then left behind enemy lines to certain capture and death. The operation was disavowed and their lives were erased from the records.
By a secret three-man commission who may now be facing charges, whose testimonies might be used in the calculation of reparations.
Are you saying that our government wants these officers dead? Why would they ask us to protect them?
Because they know you can't.
The sexual tension is gone. What have they become?
Or is it? Is it?
I think it is.
Well, I think that she is trying to make it be there.
Well,
He's just not picking up on it. It's not the right place for him.
It's not the right place for him.
He's got to save some lives, damn it. Now's not sexy time.
So essentially, the soldiers were asked to do terrible things, and then when people caught wind of it, the program was disavowed and the soldiers were left for dead. It's pretty dark. I'm assuming the B-11, as Teager would call it, is the counterpart to the soldiers in Sleepless, where they all did terrible things. But this one was approved by the government until it was found out.
It's even more terribler.
Well, it smells like the government is back to their shenanigans, cleaning up a mess in highly questionable fashion, and then roping in the X-Files to discredit them in the process. There you go, Andrew. Okay. That is why the FBI is here.
Okay, if they wanted to go this way, what is missing is some representative of this conspiracy, because the generals themselves appear to be just hapless victims. They are not presented as conspirators. They're not presented as, that they do anything other than push paper around, maybe.
Right.
But they certainly don't come off as villains. Like, turn General Block into somebody interesting and get him to have a little moment with Mulder where he, cops up to it or something. But it never happens. So this idea that the government is doing a conspiracy, like we've established already that in this show, the government are some very specific people with motives. It's easy just to say the government does it, but no, it's actually agents within the government that are have their own objectives. And this can be one. I'm fine with the conspiracy of, the cadre of people that are organizing this, but we never see them. It's just unnamed, and thus it doesn't represent any kind of threat to me or any kind of crusading element. It's so self-contained within this episode as to make no difference. I don't care.
The big problem is exactly what you're saying, where we are led to believe. You said that, there's no reason necessarily to hate or dislike Block in terms of being like the puppet master. Mm-hmm. But we are led to believe, I think, that he is. It's almost starts with him. I know that the greater umbrella of the government is at play, but they are kind of leading us to believe that these people are actually to blame. And I don't think that's the right way to take it. I think Howard Gordon should have, like you're saying, included, even though it's very stereotypical for the show, someone of greater authority telling them they have to do this, or this project that they were caught red-handed with has to be shut down, and we have to forget these soldiers ever existed.
If you want to make it Cigarette Smoking Man, make it Cigarette Smoking Man. Bring William B. Davis in for a scene to have his little moment with Block and say, the public can never know of this, otherwise it sets us back 20 years. We've moved on and we got other things to do. Shut this down. Nobody should ever know about it, Block. But we never have that. We just have this. I think Larry even said they brought him in for more scene with Block because they liked it so much. And I think they needed that to be the fill-in for, no, Block's a bad guy. He's painted as this patriot. He's painted as somebody they need to protect, but he's got this dark streak when he picks up Denny and rams him against the wall and, says, we got to make a deal, And it's like, okay, so you're a bit slimy. I get that. But I think he's a stand-in for somebody like CSM.
Right.
I think they couldn't get William B. Davis. So they're like, well, we need this to be our bad guy.
We need another.
It doesn't really ring for me.
Aging, middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
Well, back at the parade, Scully's with Skinner. They rush in through the parade, not down the side, straight down the middle.
Straight through.
To catch Block in one of the military vehicles. They're in a rush to get the general to safety. As Skinner begins explaining to Block the situation, Scully scans the crowd and sees Teager eyeing her. In a flash, she whips out her gun and aims at Teager's location, only to find him gone. The crowd falls to the ground in fear of getting shot. a poor old man on his hands and knees. Did you see that? That poor man.
I saw that.
Scully continues pointing her gun to make sure everyone present has a nice case of PTSD.
Yep.
This is the most realistic parade you're ever going to see. Brings it home. But no one can find Teager.
But this does not derail the event.
No.
This
not at all.
momentary FBI intervention, this is just a distraction. It's okay, folks. Everything's all under control now. It's like, you think that half the crowd didn't be like, okay, something's up and I'm going home. I'm not going to stick around for this shit.
I am leaving.
Not too much for today, Martha. Let's go home.
So what do you think? You're searching for a suspect, Andrew. You are Scully.
Yep.
You spot the suspect 10 yards away in the middle of a crowd of civilians.
Unload that gun, man.
I know
This is
in
your
the
one
beginning
shot.
of the episode,
Yeah.
you suggested firing in the air blindly. So maybe this question doesn't hold any weight anymore, but do you aim your gun? Does safety matter to you in this moment? In this moment, is Scully in the wrong? Or is she just right?
I think
right
she's
with
in
what
the,
you think.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert in FBI
Clearly.
police procedural for how to engage the situation, but I feel like she's probably in the right. If there's a clear and present danger and you've got a shot, you could probably take it. And it's you control your weapon. You're not going to fire it if it's not the right time, but should the opportunity present itself, a clear shot, or especially if he's about to take a hostage or something, like, I'm sure they would say at some point, you got to just take a shot, because this harkens back to, oh my God, it harkens back to Young at Heart, a young Fox Mulder.
I didn't take the shot. Now he's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I'm watching his son play football.
Every day. It comes up all the time.
Day. Yep.
So I think that if we're going to follow that logic, then she's totally in the right to do that. But I don't know. This is where I've got film crews with me all the time, and they're scanning the crowd, and it's like, this is the guy you're looking for on your TV screen. He'll show up clear as day.
Yep.
They don't do that.
Well, we go now to the final meeting grounds where the general will be giving his speech. It's nighttime, and the guests file in. Mulder and Scully don't know what to make of the situation. She was sure she saw him, but isn't so sure now. Well, Mulder says you drew your firearm on innocent civilians, so you had to be pretty positive. He confronts Skinner. You were never meant to save General Block's life, nor anyone else's for that matter. The government dropped this in Skinner's lap because they knew Teager would be unstoppable. They wanted him and the X-Files to fail. Given the nature of the case, they knew he'd bring Mulder and Scully into it. Scully, of course, has a bit more faith in the government to not sacrifice its military officials so easily. But Mulder lays the rest of the theory out. Their denial about POWs still being alive. It's here Mulder turns to Block to have him explain it, but he leaves to begin his address.
My favorite part in the whole scene is like, just ask him. And Block goes, I can't. I've got to go give a speech. Like,
He grabs his collar.
I would totally give you all the answers you want, except I gotta go out there and give a speech.
Supposed to be
so behind
stage right now.
It's like this plot. Just, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to. Yeah, I'm sure nothing will happen to me. I'll be back in 10 minutes. So.
I'm good. Do your job.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, Mulder calls to him, accusing him of being guilty of the cover-up. General Block turns to Skinner, reminds him of his duty to protect him. Do your job. Out of options, Skinner calls the team together and assigns them sectors of the crowd to search for Teager. We transition to the speech. The crowd is ecstatic. Teager makes his way through the crowd slowly, brushing past a long-haired man who calls to him. Teager doesn't respond and keeps walking. The man pursues, continuing to call to him. He follows him around a fence gate at the perimeter of the gathering. It's dark. He calls once more for his friend. No one appears to be there. He introduces himself as Leo Danziger, and then Teager appears behind him. Danzinger's amazed. He thought Teager was dead. That's what they told us. Teager is extremely ominous. They wanted you to believe that. You'll understand after tonight. He goes into a small emotional monologue. He waited for them, man, but they never came. They figured let him die off, easier than telling the truth. Danziger essentially tells him to get over it, and Teager, well, he doesn't. Teager pulls out a list of names of men left behind and vanishes once Danziger looks at it.
Will never come up again.
No, not once. Block is introduced and makes his way to the podium. He finds an ace of clubs with a death card back. He ignores it and begins. We are now at the opening scene, ladies and gentlemen. Teager, some ways away, moves freely among the sea of people as FBI agents report their positions. Scully eyes him, then loses him. He begins moving again, and the agent in 3 spots him and begins pursuit. It's a cat and mouse game that ends with Mulder in front of the crowd, pulling his gun and confronting Teager, who again evaporates into thin air. Skinner tackles Block from the podium as Teager approaches. The crowd ducks to hide from Mulder's weapon. They rush Block off stage. Mulder and Scully meet up and head backstage to figure out the next move. Mulder surmises he can only hide from someone's direct line of sight. That's how he does what he does. The two head through the barricades following Skinner and Block just in time to see a gunshot fire from Block's limousine. Skinner pulls him aside once more and tackles him to the ground, protecting him. Everyone draws their weapons as they descend on the car. No one appears inside, but it's too dark to tell. The car starts and drives towards Agent 3, who fires at the driverless vehicle. He hits directly through the windshield on the driver's side, and the car swerves and crashes before causing too much damage. As the agents cautiously approach, Teager falls out of the door, hit. He doesn't acknowledge them. Skinner calls for an ambulance, and Scully kneels to assist. He just repeats his name and rank over and over. Teager, Nathaniel J., Sergeant Green Beret, Detachment B11, service number 82278, date of birth March 7th, 1952. Again and again.
I was so expecting the episode to end here, panning up to the flag and then fade to black, executive producer Chris Carter.
Nope.
I thought surely there would be a coda, but it lingered so long to get up there. I was like, oh damn, they're gonna fade to black right here.
That would have been more powerful. There's a coda. Of course.
I mean, I don't think any explanation will save this, but anyway, go on.
It's daytime. We're back at the memorial. Mulder meets Skinner, who is solemnly observing the monument. Mulder says the Pentagon is claiming the man killed at the celebration was a Thomas Lynch. He's a vet who's been in and out of VA psych hospitals for 15 years. A member of the right hand. Markham made a positive ID, which can only mean one thing. They got to Markham.
It couldn't mean another thing?
No. Skinner can't believe that. This is just a cover-up, and Mulder pushes harder. You heard Teager. We both did. They're covering lies with more lies, trying to make him invisible. As Mulder launches into their next steps, subpoenas and petitions to release Teager's body, Skinner stops him. It's over. It's no longer our jurisdiction. The investigation has been turned over to the CID. You did your job, Mulder. Let it go. Mulder relents, but he leaves Skinner with one thought. They're not just denying this man's life, they're denying his death, and with all due respect, he could be you. Mulder departs, and Skinner turns back to the wall contemplatively. The camera slowly zooms in to Teager's name, and back to Skinner's eyes of recognition. Credits. All right.
Well, took a long time to get here.
Yes, sir.
I know you were patient. I will say that it has a lot of what X-Files fans love. It's got the dash of paranormal, it's got some gunplay, it's got some investigation, there's a hint of conspiracy theory, and ultimately there's absolutely no resolution. In short, it deals from the same playbook that Howard Gordon is very comfortable working in. And it's a lot more stock than, Caddish, which we just reviewed. That one at least felt a little bit out of his comfort zone. But this one, between Chris Carter having a thing for Vietnam and Howard Gordon basically having to carry the water to make this story actually work. I mean, it's of the Vietnam stories that Carter tells, this is probably one of the more evocative.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question is, did you like it more or better or less than Sleepless? Which I want to talk about, but I'll just end by saying this has a few plot holes that I think you could tell I had some issues with.
No.
You just have to accept that it happened. You know, they didn't make smarter choices. This is just the way the story went. And if you can do that, then you'll enjoy it. But if you're like me and you end up tugging at the threads of stuff until it really doesn't hang together well, it's enough to just draw me out of it. And it bothered me on this one. Yeah, that's how I felt.
That's fair. That's fair. And to be completely transparent, it does have its problems. When you step back and you go, okay, how did Tiger get the names?
Yeah.
And how did the government and why did the government know about Tiger in terms of what he can do? Because they roped in the X-Files and how... Okay, so...
It's all very convenient.
Their only evidence that Tiger can quote-unquote disappear is that he was not in the cargo hold on Denny Markham's liberation plane. So they've had zero contact with him
I
since
could go
then.
with an explanation that Denny Markham was the plant all along. That his fingering of Tiger as the bad guy was not as tenuous as I initially went on about. In that when he was told when the FBI comes to visit, you point the finger at Tiger. I mean that at least makes sense, but and it's more in line with his decision later to agree that in fact it was this mental patient, the guy who had mental problems in and out of VA hospitals. So that aligns better, but I just don't get that character when I look at how Larry portrayed him. He is an honorable guy and he's so forthright. He doesn't have an element of deception about him.
Right.
You take him like you totally called it. You're like, this guy strikes me as an honest guy. You want to like him. So, and you don't have that treacherous moment later where, that would underline the fact that, he played us, as audience members. And that's what's missing if I'm going to believe that narrative, but we don't get that. So we don't.
It's got its problems, Andrew. It's got its problems.
Does it have more or less problems than Sleepless, the other Vietnam episode?
I'd say more, because there are too many super convenient things in this episode.
Yeah.
Again, what I just mentioned about the government somehow knowing what Tiger can do. Tiger having the list of names. The generals being the number one bad guy and having no alluding to a higher power pulling the strings, I think is a little less believable, like we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I still like the episode. It's a little, I don't know. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
I think Sleepless was fairly straightforward.
I think it's more believable, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fantastic.
I enjoyed
as far as
Sleepless.
the things it's trying to ask you to believe.
Yeah. As ridiculous as like their kill count was, I remember having an issue with that. But
yeah, exactly.
I think Preacher being able to affect people's minds and make them believe what they want to believe, and it leads to their death. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest issue with that episode is, can he affect their bodies to the point where they mimic gunshot wounds and die from it? It's like, that's a little far-fetched, but
God, was Sleepless another Howard Gordon episode?
I bet you it was.
I think we need to. That was season 1, right?
That was season 2.
Was that season 2? Season 2?
Beginning of season 2.
We're both looking it up, aren't we?
Yep.
Who's going to get to it first?
Well, you are.
Oh, my goodness. Mike. Written by Howard Gordon, directed by Rob Bowman.
God damn it!
It's the Vietnam episode, part 2.
Yep. So I would say
that's interesting.
I enjoy this episode. I like it. Always love to see Larry Musser.
And
And
you can enjoy his performance and hate the rest of the episode.
Well, absolutely. I certainly hate the episode. Fuck it. No.
You can't win them all, man.
The bat of heavy-handedness looms over this episode with like the forgotten soldier, invisible disappearing act, that kind of thing. I get it. Okay. Little literal, but, still an
Yeah.
enjoyable episode for me.
Okay. You are, as I am free to have my opinions, so are you free to have yours.
Absolutely, sir.
That's right. On that note, shall we read the fewer number of listener comments we have for this
Yes,
one?
let us.
Well, we start with Kevin Moran, who says, a pretty forgettable episode, in my opinion. Starting the episode in media res was unnecessary and seems like it was added in to ensure the episode hit the required runtime. I tend to agree with that, actually.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I wonder if they just started it off straight with the first general's arrival and had that as the cold open.
Yep.
That might have been better, actually. I have to think about that.
Yeah. All right. Liza M says, not a great episode, but I never mind spending time with Skinner. Truer words has never been spoken.
True words, yes. And he's Mad Daddy at that second part. It's like, I'm going to show you something right now.
Get the fuck out here. See the security camera.
Yeah, he's ticked, man. It's a good point. Sarah Lee says, I skipped the heck out of this episode for 2 reasons. Mulder's lackluster, I got him, I lost him in the pre-credits, and the eye bleeding. Cannot handle. Also, it's boring. Sorry, Larry Musser. Interesting.
That's
Is it boring?
right. I don't know.
I don't know if I
would call it boring. Yeah. I do agree. I think we've all come to the conclusion it's mediocre in terms of content. I think it's got its problems. Boring? I don't know. I think
stuff happens. I guess for me, I check out when stuff doesn't make sense. So, I could totally see checking out because it's not pushing your buttons. We don't have our standard stuff. Agreement. That's a word now. Yep.
All right.
In agreement.
With her comment about Mulder, he's not particularly believable in the first scene. When they're fading out to credits or whatever, he's like, I can't see him. I can't see him. It's just very monotone. And I get that's David Duchovny's voice, but he can act. He can act. And that particular line repeated over and over, it just doesn't come off as urgent. No. It's like, I can't see him.
I think, so this has been a fruitful session for me in that I didn't know what I couldn't put my finger on what I didn't like about this episode. And I think I have more than succeeded in doing that. But I think I've identified what I think is probably the worst flaw in this episode. And that is near the end, Mulder identifies the power. He identifies what Teager is doing to, affect his plans. But this doesn't become his undoing. Like, he's not able to capitalize on this to show us that he's a hero. The hero is able to put the pieces together and solve the puzzle. But that doesn't happen here. What happens here is Agent 3 blasts away at the car and shoots him to death. And it just feels hollow. Like, good on you, Red Shirt, for being a good shooter. But, it's like Teager just failed because he got unlucky, I suppose. Like, Mulder calls it. He says he's in the car. He figures out the MO. He needs to get him alone. He's in the car, which begs the question, why on earth does he enact this plan to take out Teager in a crowd of people?
Right.
He's got a plan. It works. You get him in the car. Like, why have this whole sequence to begin with? Then villain gets stupid at the end. Classic thing.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe he just gets desperate. He's trying to complete his mission.
There's no timeline given. There's no I'm going to die in 24 hours, so I got to do this before the time runs out. If you want that, you got to write it in.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening.
For enduring my relentless attack upon this episode.
Over and over.
Over and over. Didn't let Mike finish his bits.
Every 41 seconds.
Wow. I must have really had something to say. So, in honor of that, I'm not even going to do the last word. I'm going to let you have the last word, man. Because I have obviously overextended my welcome.
Oh, no, you're good. That's all good. We've been here for an hour and 30 minutes, so let's just fade out. I'm going to keep talking as I fade out. Future me will fade this out into our music, and people will now hear the sound of this. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.